Welcome to IELTS, TOEFL, and University Academic Vocabulary Part 2. We will learn 5 academic phrases, 5 academic words that you can use to get a high score in all of these areas. So let's start with number 1. So you have a question about the environment and you want to talk about a specific topic, flooding, let's say. We know flooding means when there's too much water and it goes over the river banks. The banks is like the side of the river. So you write talking about flooding, and that's band 5 language. Band 6 or 7 language will be with regards to flooding, and then a comma, and use this band 9 language, within the realm of. So you hear this sometimes when you talk about things like Game of Thrones, the realm. It means area. So it just means inside this topic. So within the realm of education, student agency has been a popular focus. Student agency, super useful for your education essays. It means students can choose how they learn. Student agency, students choose how they learn. So we have within the realm of education, comma, standard phrase you can use on an essay, and then subject and a verb and an object, and in this case, student agency. Students can learn how they want to learn. All super useful for getting a 9. So the word or phrase is within the realm of, comma, subject, verb, object. Let's see some examples. So child obesity. Within the realm of childcare, obesity is an important issue. In education, within the realm of education, discipline is an important factor to consider. In science, within the realm of scientific research, preventative medicine gets a lot of attention. So this word prevent, here up to the T, it means to stop, and preventative is the adjective for the medicine. So preventative medicine gets a lot of attention. And there you go, you have a band 9 phrase right at the beginning of your sentence. This is also good for your sentence structure, for your structure mark, because you have within the realm of scientific research, this is an introductory part of your sentence, subject, verb, object. So this introduction is really nice way to start off the sentence. It's a different style that most people won't use. So let's take a look at number 2. Excuse me. You want to focus on a subject. You write talking about discipline in education. Now we know discipline means when students do things wrong, they have some sort of punishment or something that they learn, a way they can learn that it's not right. And that's by band 5 language. It's not too bad, but we can do better. And band 6 to 7, when considering education, comma, and that you notice we have when here. That's a complex sentence. That'll be good for your grammar mark as well. And within this scope is your band 9 language. So it means inside the boundaries, and the boundaries are like how far you can go before there's a wall, basically. So inside the boundaries, I said in the sentence before. Example, when speaking of rural settings, governments have many options for transport. Okay, well, let's just go back a minute. Rural means not city, so we're talking about countryside. Governments have many options for transport within this scope. So we're saying within this area, this rural area that we just talked about, trains are most fuel efficient. So this means we're referring back. This is good for your coherence and cohesion mark. Within this scope is good for your sentence structure mark. Rural is good for your vocabulary mark. Scope is good for your vocabulary mark. So scope means like telescope. So if you have a telescope, it's like glasses, this long tube that you look through and it helps you see far away, like when you're on a ship. The scope is how much you can see through that telescope, through that glass. It just means within this area. It just means within this area. And then you have a comma, so you can use this for any subject. Trains are most fuel efficient. Let's see in another subject how it works. Child obesity. Childhood obesity can be curtailed through parental monitoring, and within this scope, it is important to educate the parents. So a lot of good stuff for your marks here. First of all, curtailed means reduced. So childhood obesity can be curtailed or reduced through parental monitoring. Now you notice I have the AL here. That is the adjective, parental monitoring. And within this scope, so here we have comma and, which means this is a compound sentence. We have a subject verb object here and a subject verb object here. And this is the introductory element to this subject verb object. So we're saying within this scope, parental monitoring is the scope. That's what we're focusing on. Scope means like focus. It is important to educate the parents. So basically we're just saying there's childhood obesity, parents need to monitor, but within this idea of parents monitoring, we need to educate the parents. So we can't just say parents monitor the children. Within this situation, it's important to educate the parents. So we think educating parents is an important idea. Okay. Again, if you have you want to try using this for all of these, we're only on number 2. But if you want to put this in the comments, your sentence, your version, you can use this. Put it in the comments. I'll check it for you, and try using it in your essays. So, in education, disciplining a child can have negative consequences. And within this scope, it is important for teachers to be trained sufficiently. So here, same thing. Consequences are like results or things that happen because of this discipline. So we discipline the child, and sometimes there are negative things that happen. Maybe the child feels bad or reacts angrily. And within this scope, so this scope being whatever you said here, it is important for teachers to be trained sufficiently. Sufficiently means enough. More Band 9 language for you. Consequences, sufficiently, curtailed, scope. Lots of good words here. And again, we have a compound sentence, subject, verb, object, and we have within the scope, subject, verb, object. So this is a compound sentence. All right, let's take a look in science. Global warming is not only threatening animals, but also humans who live on coastlines. Within this scope, so now we've put a period. You can do it this way as well, you can separate them. Within this scope, it is important for all humans to work together to stop the problem. Okay, why is this important here that I put the period? Because here, if you wanted to, you could put comma and another subject verb object, because you had an idea here and an idea here that you wanted to put together. And maybe you didn't want these two together, so you didn't put and here this time. Okay, so there's no and here because we didn't want to connect these. And usually you would do that because you want to connect this with another idea. So you put and here and then a subject verb object. Okay, so again, within this scope, the scope being here. Good, so let's go on to number 3. So you want to say that cities are too crowded and give a solution. You write, cities are crowded, soon they will be uninhabitable. Uninhabitable means that people cannot safely live there. So inhabit, or habit, habitat, this word habit. It's also the same as habit, as in doing a hobby. It's the same root. So this is actually a Band 9 word, really good word. But it's basically Band 5 language. Band 6 to 7, there are many people in cities, comma, and it is expected that soon they will be uninhabitable. So we've used a compound sentence here, which is much better. And Band 9 language, we would say, in a relatively short time, subject, verb, object. So we have this word relatively, and this means in this situation. So we could just say in a short time, but we call it a relatively short time because it's related to or connected to. You notice this is like relative, as in your family. It means it's connected to another situation. So we'll see the examples and you will understand that a little bit better. In a short time, considering the goals and what needed to be done. This is the definition. Example, in a relatively short time, XYZ city has cut its air pollution in half. Okay, so here's relative. Um, Cutting air pollution in half is a difficult thing. And let's say it normally takes 2 or 3 years, and this city has done it in a year or a year and a half. That's a relatively short time. So it's related to what the normal time is to do that. Okay, so let's see here. Cities are crowded. In a relatively short time, they will be uninhabitable. So it could be 5, 10 years, but that's a relatively short time because it's a lot of issues to deal with if this is true, if they're uninhabitable. Okay, let's move on and take a look at some examples. Childhood obesity. In a relatively short time, the rates of childhood obesity have gone up from 20 to 30%. In education, in a relatively short time, we have seen that encouragement increases grades. So maybe they're testing students out. And in science, in a relatively short time, it will be possible to use robotic limbs. And so on. So here's our phrase. Put it back here for you. See if you can use this in your essay. Put it in the comments as well. Okay, you should by now understand what it means. All right, let's talk about health for our number 4 phrase. Lots of good Band 9 language we're learning today. You write, many people are not eating healthily. That's Band 5, Band 6 to 7. An increasing number of people are eating poorly. A lot of people write more and more. More and more is a really like a Band 4 language. An increasing number of is much better. So try this one, a substantial number of. So substantial just means a big number or a lot in this situation. So it's enough to cause concern. Concern means we say, oh no, that's a problem. So for example, a substantial number of people have become sedentary and do not eat a sufficient amount of vitamins and nutrients. So a substantial number of people have become sedentary. Sedentary means they don't exercise and do not eat a sufficient amount of vitamins and nutrients. Okay, good. There's your phrase. See if you can use it in a sentence. Pop it in the comments. And here we have examples. A substantial number of children are incapable of participating in physical education classes due to obesity. Incapable means they cannot. In education, a substantial number of children are spending all of their time at school on their mobile phones. In science, a substantial number of countries are at risk of flooding. And so on. So there's your phrase, substantial number or amount. You could also use amount. So number 5, our last phrase, and we'll see what kind of vocabulary we have here for you to learn. Let's talk about technology. You want to say overuse of the internet is bad. You write, people use the internet too much. And 6 to 7, people overuse the internet and this is detrimental to one's health. This means someone who's doing that. Detrimental means bad for you. And here's the Band 9. It is not specifically something, but something else. So this is a more advanced construction. So it means 2 things that shouldn't be. So it's not specifically this, but it's this. It is not only the government that should take responsibility, but citizens too. It's not exactly 2 things that shouldn't be. It's not specifically this, but also this. It's 2 things are happening. I put shouldn't be because you can use it in a negative sense. So it's not specifically the pollution. It's the air. It's not specifically the air pollution, but the water pollution that's causing health issues. It could be 2 negatives, but it could be 2 positives as well. It's not specifically the internet that causes the problem, but people's addiction to attention. So it's not specifically, it's almost like saying it's not just. And there's your phrase. Let's see some examples, and then you can put some in the comments. It's not specifically sugar that is the problem, but the child's overall eating habits. It's not specifically the subject that causes the issue, but the way in which it is taught. And it's not specifically cars that cause global warming, but a combination of factors. Factors, again, combination of factors is a phrase you could use. And you could actually just use this. It's not specifically this that has caused something, but a combination of factors. So you could change cars and global warming for whatever your subject is and use that. So there's your phrase. It's not specifically something, but something else. Good. Thank you for watching. Comment below with your use of the sentences. Like the video, subscribe for more on the series, and hit the notification bell so you know when I'm making new videos. I'm always making new videos for you. And go to ispenglish.com for my IELTS course. Thank you very much.